The film begins with actress Mila Jovovich addressing the audience directly. She states that what they're about to see is based on actual events that took place in the remote town of Nome, Alaska in the year 2000. To protect the identities of those involved, the names of individuals have been altered, even though much of what occurred is supported by real video recordings. In the end, it's left to the viewers to decide whether or not to believe the story. Fast forward to 2002, psychologist Dr. Abigail "Abby" Tyler appears in a televised interview hosted by Chapman University. She shares a personal account of loss. 2 years earlier, in August 2000, her husband died under mysterious circumstances while they were sleeping. His sudden death left Abby a widow with 2 children, her teenage son Ronnie and young daughter Ashley. Overwhelmed by grief, Abby turns to fellow psychologist Dr. Abel Campos from Anchorage for guidance. In an attempt to uncover repressed memories from that traumatic night, Abel conducts a hypnosis session. During it, Abby remembers waking up to a shadowy figure standing beside her bed just before seeing a knife plunge into her husband's chest. Overcome by emotion, she screams and Abel halts the session. He recommends she rest, but Abby insists on continuing her work. She heads back to Nome, a town only reachable by plane, and resumes her practice. Her first patient describes disturbing sleep issues, saying he wakes up every night at the same hour, haunted by visions of an owl staring at him. Abby finds this eerily familiar, recalling similar accounts from other patients who also reported seeing a white owl in their dreams, an image they feared since childhood. What's even stranger is that many believed their windows were closed, yet the owl somehow appeared inside. Determined to investigate further, Abby schedules hypnotherapy sessions for 3 patients. Meanwhile, her own life is spiraling. Her daughter Ashley is emotionally withdrawn and has stopped speaking entirely, with classmates accusing her of faking her condition. Ronnie, her son, is angry and confused. He can't understand how his mother can help strangers but not her own family. He also suspects she knows more about his father's death than she admits. Late one night, Abby listens to an old audio recording where her late husband discusses a series of insomnia cases in Nome. Ashley overhears his voice, distracting Abby from the tape. The following day, Abby hypnotizes 2 of her patients. Under hypnosis, both men describe terrifying beings trying to force their way into their homes. They panic during the sessions and Abby has to wake them. Although she reassures them the events weren't real, they remain deeply shaken. That evening, Abby is urgently summoned to the police station. One of her patients has taken his wife and children hostage at gunpoint, demanding that she be brought to him. When Abby arrives, the man speaks cryptically, saying he has no other option, and that if others saw what he had seen, they'd understand. He blurts out an unfamiliar phrase, "Zamabu Eder," before tragically killing his family and himself. The local sheriff questions Abby afterward. She explains the patient's visions and the recurring image of the owl, but he dismisses it, blaming her use of hypnosis for the tragedy. He accuses her of experimenting on vulnerable people and refuses to consider anything paranormal. Abby challenges him, pointing out that even her husband's murder remains unsolved. Later, Abby reflects on what the disturbed man had said, that the owl image had vanished as if it was masking something else. The next day, concerned for her well-being, Dr. Campos flies in and begs Abby to step away from the investigation. But Abby refuses, convinced that people are suffering and she might be the only one who can help. Abel reluctantly agrees to assist her. That day, her 3rd patient, Scott, shows symptoms identical to the previous victims. His wife pleads for Abby to put him under hypnosis. During the session, Scott describes the owl, saying it doesn't resemble any normal bird. He senses a presence in his house and recalls feeling hunted since childhood. His body begins to convulse violently, and Abby cuts the session short. Once he calms down, Scott reveals he saw something, beings he can't describe, and heard voices in his head. He doesn't remember what happened to him, but whatever it was, it terrified him enough to empathize with the man who had taken his own family's life. Abby theorizes that the patients may have experienced alien abductions, pointing out that millions of similar cases have been reported worldwide. Abel remains skeptical, citing the lack of tangible proof. Just then, Abby's assistant walks in, alarmed. She had listened to one of Abby's recorded sessions and says a strange voice, speaking in an unknown language, could be heard through Abby's screams. Abby insists it wasn't her voice. Later that night, Abby plays back the recording. She recalls lying in bed when something entered the room. She doesn't remember how a mark on her shoulder appeared, but she now suspects it was inflicted by that same entity. In the memory, she struggles to fight back but is overpowered and taken. To confirm her recollection, she checks the floor and finds scratch marks where she had gripped the boards, proving the memory wasn't imagined. Despite all this, Abby still can't identify the eerie language on the tape, and the terrifying mystery surrounding Nome continues to deepen. Abby reaches out to Dr. Ao Ojusami, an expert in ancient languages who had previously worked with her late husband. She hopes he can help identify the strange language captured in the recording during the hypnosis sessions. After hearing her story, Ojusami travels to Nome to examine the audio himself. Upon listening, he identifies the language as Ancient Sumerian, the oldest known language in human history. While he's unable to provide a full translation, he recognizes a few disturbing phrases: our creation to study and completely destroy. The idea that this long-dead language has suddenly reappeared deeply unsettles him. Ojusami points out that the voice on the tape is not human and expresses concern over what the beings might have done to Abby. Abel, however, remains skeptical and dismisses the idea of alien involvement. Ojusami, sticking to his field of study, encourages them to explore ancient Sumerian artifacts, noting that depictions of figures in helmets, rockets launching into the sky, and early references to celestial beings appeared thousands of years before the Bible. He even mentions that Genesis likely evolved from much older Sumerian texts, including stories like Noah's Ark. Although he doesn't claim to understand everything, Ojusami believes there are undeniable connections. Their discussion is cut short by a call from Scott's wife. She says her husband is in distress and needs help immediately. When Abby arrives, Scott admits there was never an owl, just them. Though he doesn't remember anything specific. Desperate for answers, he begs Abby to hypnotize him again. During a session, Scott begins to levitate and a deep, commanding voice, speaking in Sumerian, takes over, warning Abby to stop her research. The camera recording the session abruptly cuts out, and in a panic, Abby ends the hypnosis. Scott is left convulsing. Shaken, Abby rushes home and tells her kids to pack so they can leave, but before they can go, the sheriff storms in. He informs her that Scott has been left paralyzed from the neck down and blames her for his condition. As he attempts to arrest her, Abel intervenes, confirming Abby's account. Despite this, a sheriff places her under house arrest, posting an officer to monitor her home. In the 2002 interview, Abby explains the 4 categories of extraterrestrial encounters. The first involves seeing a UFO, the second involves physical evidence, the third is direct interaction, and the fourth, most terrifying, is alien abduction. She claims the fourth kind happens globally, but is often forgotten due to psychological suppression. Back in the 2000 timeline, the officer stationed outside Abby's home witnesses a massive, triangular-shaped craft hovering in the sky. The video footage distorts, and the officer's terrified voice is heard over the radio calling for backup. When authorities arrive, they find Abby frantically screaming that her daughter Ashley was taken, abducted by a beam of light. The sheriff, unconvinced, accuses Abby of kidnapping her own daughter and removes Ronnie from her custody. Determined to find Ashley, Abby volunteers to undergo hypnosis herself, hoping to make contact with the beings. Abel and Ojusami film the session. Abby recalls the owl before suddenly breaking into screams. The camera shakes, violent noises erupt, and she sees an object boring into her shoulder. A voice then declares that the child will stay with him, because he is God. Ojusami later translates the final phrase as, "the spirit from which you cannot escape." Back in the interview, Abby reveals that all 3 of them, herself, Abel, and Ojusami, were abducted during that session and have no memory of what happened. Still, they will return the same night. Abby says what she experienced wasn't divine. It was something far darker, a feeling of hopelessness no human should endure. Afterward, Abby wakes in a hospital with a broken neck from the encounter. The sheriff visits her with a shocking revelation. Her husband didn't die from an intruder. He had taken his own life. This contradicts Abby's long-held belief that he was murdered. Abel reassures her that even the most skilled psychologists can't always see their own minds clearly and encourages her not to blame herself. Despite the sheriff's explanation, Abby insists that the physical evidence, Scott's broken neck, Ashley's disappearance, and the strange recordings can't be ignored. She maintains hope that she will one day see her daughter again. The interview ends with Abby shown to be paralyzed due to her injuries. The film's epilogue states that Nome, Alaska has seen over 2,000 visits from the FBI, though no official cases were ever filed. Dr. Abel continues to practice psychology, and Ojusami became a university professor in Canada. Neither man, along with the sheriff, agreed to participate in the film. Abby's son Ronnie, now 22, still holds resentment toward his mother over Ashley's disappearance and barely maintains contact. All charges against Abby were dropped, and she has since moved to the East Coast, continuing her search for Ashley while bedridden. As the credits roll, real audio clips of people describing their UFO encounters are played. The movie crafts an eerie mood, emphasizing the isolated, unexplainable nature of small-town mysteries. Though the narrative is complex and the documentary style can be confusing, the story remains open-ended, leaving viewers to decide what they believe.